Welcome to the Tech Ranch, live and local here on Super Talk 1270. The latest gadgets, online security, websites and apps, social media, and so much more. How can technology help you? Let's find out. It's time for the Tech Ranch on Super Talk 1270.
From our studios in beautiful Mandan, North Dakota, along the mighty Missouri River, here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
Windows 10 is almost here. Our resident expert, Nick Ressler from Awesome 2 Products in Mandan, is our in-studio guest, and he'll be giving us the latest updates to what you can expect and maybe not expect with Windows 10. Thermal engineering is not a sexy occupation, but without it, our computers, Jim's already laughing, TVs, and most of today's electronics would not be very efficient. The CEO of Advanced Thermal Solutions, Dr. Kaveh Azar, will be joining us later in the show. And Pluto, of course, has been making big news. Of course, Jim showed me up last week because I had no clue what was going on, but Miss Metaverse will be on to discuss Pluto and space exploration at the control panel. Producer extraordinaire, Mr. Jim Walsh.
Hello.
How you doing?
Not too shabby.
Well, we promised everybody that we would be video streaming today.
Yeah, we are. Or are we?
We're having technical difficulties. Actually, we don't have a good enough wireless.
I see you just fine.
Yeah. That's a good thing, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just looked over there again, and it's actually turned itself back off. It doesn't see our Wi-Fi good enough, so then I tried to switch over to using my wire or my cell phone connection to see if that would work. And obviously, the studio, we must have tin foil or something wrapped in this studio to keep all the signal out, right?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Because it's like, you walk out the door here of the studio and the Wi-Fi just goes to 5 bars on their stuff, right? You walk in here, I can barely get it on the laptop. My phones don't work. It's crazy.
Nothing in this building surprises me,
So we'll have to work on this technical glitch, and hopefully next week, everybody, you'll be able to stream us at thetechranch.com. We're using Meerkat, by the way. We talked about using Periscope last week, but we actually decided to go with Meerkat instead. So hopefully next week we'll have it back on, and people will be able to look at us. We even dressed up for the occasion, Jim.
Yeah, shirt, shoes, everything.
Yeah, it's amazing. We were really prepared
pants
today, so Nick showed up with pants. That's
I'm not even going commando today. I'm actually, too much information.
Maybe a little too much, yes. So anyway, we do have a full show. Nick Ressler's here with Awesome 2 Products, and we're going to get right into Windows 10 because we'll be talking a little bit about thermal engineering in a little bit, and, of course, the big Pluto flyby here with Miss Metaverse a little bit later. So, Nick, you were in about a month ago, and you were giving us some updates on what Windows 10 is going to be. And I see now, I looked at my computer last night, and it showed that July 29th is the big day. So, are we going to be able to upgrade to Windows 10 on July 29th?
Some people will.
Okay. So, is there like an order? I mean, are they just going to release it?
There's a lot of confusion about it. The little icon that's down there by your clock, window, that lets you reserve your copy of Windows.
Okay.
And you've got 1 year to take advantage of that. And that's what people don't understand. They think they have to rush out and get it.
Okay.
And then as time goes by, they're going to start pushing it out. It'll come as an update for those who want to just download it and upgrade your Windows from 7 or 8 to 10.
And actually, it's not 7 or 8, is it? You have to actually have 7.1 or 8.1.
You have to have 7 with the service pack.
Right.
And it has to be updated. And 8 has to be 8.1, and it has to be updated. And there's been a lot of problems running the updates on 8.
Okay.
And 8.1. If you have 8, you can't go to 8.1 until you've updated 8. And updated 8, you have to do it in pieces. If you do the whole thing, it'll go about 99% and then revert. And I've had a lot of people bring their computers into the shop because of that issue. Once you've got 8.1 and it's updated and you've got 7 with Service Pack 1 on it, then you'll be able to, at some point, download it. I would recommend holding off.
On the update?
On the upgrade.
On the upgrade to Windows 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because, it's going to be, now it's out on beta.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of people who've tested it, but still, what you really need to do is look at your system. If it's running and everything is working, I would give them a month, let them kind of get, it out there and see if there's any bugs. And then the first thing I would do is back up your system. I mean, and again, not just because of Windows 10, the crypto virus is out there again. It's starting to show up. I've had 3 computers in the shop. We've lost everything.
Okay.
And one fellow, I guess his daughter made a backup on a jump drive. He didn't even know about it. And when she told him that, he brought it in, and everything was there, and he was really happy. I mean, it saved him. But you want to just get in the habit of start to back up your computer, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and who knows, 10 might break your computer.
Right. So besides the potential of an update breaking your computer, there's a lot of viruses out there too. So it really is important to take the time to back up. If
there's data on your computer that you absolutely don't want to lose, you have to have a backup.
So what do you use right now for your backup scenario?
I use an external hard drive that I run like with my photos and things that I really want to save. What I do is I save it to an external hard drive, and especially on the photos, once I get a batch of them, I'll burn them to a disc, a DVD.
Okay. And then how do you feel about, cloud storage? I mean, is that a good solution as well?
I recommend it. Yeah, if you have Kryptonite is a good one. There's a lot of other ones out there.
You mean Carbonite, I'm guessing.
Carbonite.
I do the same thing, though. I always think of Superman, and I call it Crypto.
They need to change their name.
Yeah.
Carbonite.
Kryptonite.
And then there's, what's Microsoft's? OneDrive?
OneDrive, yes.
Yeah, OneDrive.
Yep.
And Google is Google.
Google Drive.
Google Drive.
Yep. And there's iDrive as well.
iDrive, yeah.
And I know that a lot of prominent celebrities use iDrive, so that must tell you something as well.
The one thing that people don't understand, when you talk about the cloud, you're talking about somebody else's computer.
Right.
It isn't magic. It isn't some big thing.
Some fluffy thing in the sky, yes.
Come from heaven or whatever.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's computer. And at some point, everything is at risk. So external hard drive or burning it to a DVD, especially the critical stuff that you really absolutely can't afford to lose, is still your best option. The convenience is to have it on the OneDrive and these other drives.
Right,
yeah.
And they do a pretty good job of screening the stuff as it's going to the cloud to make sure they're not bringing viruses with them, of course. So, all right, everybody, after the break, Dr. Hazar will be with us from Advanced Thermal Solutions to talk about thermal engineering. So come on back.
Right now, 70.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Follow the Guru of Geek at facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or thetechranch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank all the listeners who follow us across the country and around the world on the Blueberry Network. We're also on Roku, we're on iTunes, we're on TuneIn, and of course our own app, Radio Pup. And in studio, of course, we have from Awesome 2 Products, Mr. Nick Ressler. He's talking a little bit about Windows 10. Mr. Jim Walsh, of course, right here. Yeah, and we're actually streaming right now, everybody, on Meerkat. So if you want to hop on over there and check it out, Jim's actually trying to take a look. We are having some technical issues with it. It's nothing to do with their... we just lost it again.
I was trying to make a rabbit in front of the camera, and it died on me.
Well, it is actually working. It's just that we have a very weak Wi-Fi signal in this room. Again, it has something to do with the tinfoil on the walls.
I think so.
So we'll have to work on that for next week.
Or
Maybe
the
we can get
around the engineer's
something.
head.
Well, you can take that tinfoil hat off now if you want. It's
okay,
Jim. So, and of course, on the phone, we've been bragging about Dr. Azar joining us, and here he is. So, the CEO of Advanced Thermal Solutions, Dr. Azar. Thanks for joining us on the Tech Ranch.
Hi, Marlo. Delighted to be on your show.
So we know we've been talking about that thermal engineering is probably not a real sexy occupation, but it's a very needed thing, isn't it?
Oh, indeed. Almost every electronics that we deal with, and today is a highly digitized world, it requires some sort of a thermal management, whether it's something like a simple heat sink or spreading the heat, or to something very complex that like refrigeration or cryogenic cooling. I do not know of any electronics these days that thermal management is not part of the consideration.
So give me an example maybe for people who really aren't aware of what thermal engineering would do, or if we didn't have, let's say, a heat sink in our computers, would that lower our productivity? Would we have computers at all? I mean, what would happen if we didn't have that?
Oh, the effects are from major catastrophic situation like a component breaking apart, from the thermal expansions that occur, or digital errors that we see. Let me give you one example. One example is, for instance, your cell phones. All of us have cell phones, and we've been on the phone for a little bit too long. The phone gets extremely hot. Some of the phones actually shut down. So this is an example of a simple failure. The system shuts down in order to cool itself off so it can function effectively. A catastrophic failure would be your component actually burns up. We've had some examples on the laptops, for instance, that have caught on fire as a result of the overheating. And the problem can actually exceed significantly larger. Imagine an X-ray is taken from your chest, and if the thermal managements are not managed effectively, thermal issues are not managed effectively, you could have bit errors, meaning you could have artificial spots on your chest X-ray. So the doctor on the other side of the world, wherever he or she is looking at the X-ray, could think that you have actually spots on your lung, whereas your lung could be very healthy. So the thermal management, if it's not done effectively and properly, it impacts all of us in today's electronics world.
So it is a very, very important, piece of our technology that we have going on today. So, one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of years, since both Nick and I work a lot on computers, is the fact that most of the computers and cell phones, like you say, will shut off now once they get to a certain temperature, correct?
Exactly, and that's a major issue. You ask about the productivity, you ask about the functionality. These are the stuff that happen on a regular basis and could impact us adversely depending upon the function that we're using the electronics for. So you asked a question, I didn't answer it probably directly. You asked what the thermal engineer does, and you mentioned this is a sexy job. Unfortunately, it's not. And that's why we put a lot of emphasis on thermal management, both on the publication side as well as the National Day for Thermal Engineer, to recognize this group of people. Something around 20 to 25,000 people worldwide who are involved in the electronics thermal management.
Wow.
Typical mechanical engineer or somebody who's trained in thermal management, you get hired in an electronics company. Obviously, these electronics companies are producing electronic equipment. Thermal is always a secondary type of a consideration for them. And as an engineer, you're responsible to make sure that those components are maintained at a certain level of temperature, that they function effectively. And that temperature threshold is typically specified by the component manufacturers. Products like Intel, Freescale, Motorola used to produce a lot of components, Altera, Xilinx, name it. There are 19, 20, maybe a little more companies worldwide that produce electronic component, and all of these guys have to be thermally managed.
So on a user side, Dr. Azar, how does a person, and let's just talk about cell phones for a second here, because you're right. I mean, you use your cell phone for a few minutes, it gets hot, sometimes it gets very hot. the mechanism that you have developed or that thermal engineers have developed to shut off a computer, cell phone, whatever, when it gets too hot actually saves the device. So I think people have to understand that. But are there things that you can do that maybe can, help the device stay functioning properly?
Yeah, obviously the skin of the device, the one that you hold in your hands, is a ultimate heat sink that extracts the heat from the components and then dissipates it into the environment. So if I keep it as free as possible so the air can circulate around the, say, cell phone or even your laptop, it's going to help you mitigate any kind of an issue or delay it at least.
So what about cases like on your cell phone? I mean, does that actually, in the long run, I mean, I talk a lot about why it's important to have a case around your cell phone in case you drop it or whatever, for that type of protection. But are we actually hurting the device because it can't cool properly?
You're absolutely correct, Marlo. From a thermal management standpoint, you're actually putting a layer of not only a plastic or rubber around the device, but because of the fact there's not an intimate contact between that case and the device, you have a very thin air layer, and air is the best insulator in the world. And as a result of it, you are expediting the process of heating. Yes.
And of course, when your device heats up a lot, it actually prematurely, basically wears the device out much quicker. So if it had a lifespan of 5 years without having that case on there, maybe with having a case on there and having it overheat over and over and over again, that device will probably malfunction a lot sooner, correct?
Absolutely, yes. The temperature is the biggest enemy for the digital electronics, and the cooler we can keep them, longer the life expectancy is. Unfortunately, nowadays, every 2 or 3 years, people change their cell phones or laptops, so we don't see that failure happening as regularly. But the ones who keep it longer and stay on the phone longer, they diminish the life, yes.
And Nick has a question for you.
Yeah, Doctor, how does Apple do it with those real thin, like Apple AirBooks and that? They don't have a fan in them. How do they keep them cool?
What they've tried to do is try to dissipate the power as much as possible, lower the power as much as possible, and then be able to spread the heat as effectively as possible on the entire case, so you don't feel the spot. And they've also put some intelligence in the components. When it's not being used, it's clocking at a lesser frequency, and as a result of it, doesn't heat as much.
Interesting.
It is good thermal management.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And of course, I caught this because you guys do have a special day coming up on July 24th. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. I'm going to make it short, but it's going to be a little bit of a story I have to tell you.
Okay.
I worked for Bell Labs for a number of years, and it was an honor to be in that company. It was an absolutely fabulous company at the time. And I noticed as a thermal engineer, you're absolutely a second-class citizen. When the generals came down to look at the equipment, they never paid attention to the thermal management. They always looked at how fast this transmits the data and all the wonderful functionality that we were designing into those electronics. As a result of it, I noticed that we do such a critical job to get these products out. I started a magazine called Electronics Cooling Magazine in 1995, which I was editor-in-chief for about 11 years. And then subsequently, when I left Bell Labs and started working at ATS, we started our own magazine called QPedia, just all for the sake of making sure that the community is aware of the thermal management issue going forward. So last year or so, we were sitting around the table and talking about the importance of the work that we do, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but it's a very critical and unthanked type of a job. We decided to recognize a day for the thermal engineers that happens to be first or second hottest day in the world in North America, this Northern Hemisphere, which is on July 24th, as a Thermal Engineer Day, to recognize this group of people, about 25,000 people worldwide, that we work very hard. We come across the very, very tough problems. Oftentimes, as I mentioned, why the job is difficult is we typically get involved as a thermal engineer at the latter part of the design cycle. The product is designed. We have very little latitude to do anything, but to come up with very creative ways of cooling this device. So we felt that it is really important to recognize our method of practice and the people who are working in this field. and designate a day to recognize these engineers who are working very hard to come up with these tough solutions that are helping our electronics to work. Without a thermal engineer, without good thermal engineering, as Nick asked the question about the Apple products and so forth, we wouldn't have as good of electronics as we do today.
Yeah, it is an absolutely critical piece of the technology that we have today, and it is hilarious that you picked the hottest day of the year to celebrate Thermal Engineer Day. I think that's very clever. So we wish you all the best, Dr. Azar. Thank you for being on the Tech Ranch, and have a great Thermal Engineer Day.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and it was a delight to be on your show, and best of luck. It's an interesting show, and I hope your listeners walk away with some good information. If they have any questions, don't hesitate to ping me, and I'd be more than happy to answer your question.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Azar. Again, everybody, that was Dr. Azar with Advanced Thermal Solutions. And we will continue our conversation with Nick until the break here. So well, I guess we're at the break. So after the break, everybody, Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino will be joining us, and we will be talking about space exploration and the things that space exploration has brought to us. So come on back.
Right now, 70.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we do have a full show today. Of course, our in-studio guest, Mr. Nick Ressler from Awesome 2 Products, and he will be chiming in occasionally about Windows 10 and other things, of course. Our producer extraordinaire, Jim Walsh, also in studio. And joining us on the phone, Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, Marlo. How are you doing?
Doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I tasked you today with a little bit of talk about space, the final frontier, as they say. And, of course, Pluto just flew by, or New Horizons space probe just flew by Pluto within the last week. And unfortunately, I was not keeping up to it like Jim was. And he talked a little bit about it on last week's show. And I thought maybe we should talk a little bit about this space probe, and as well as things that space exploration has brought to us. And I think people will be very amazed at, why, in my opinion, I guess, of all the government projects that we ever fund, space exploration is something that brings us many times back what we invest in it. And we'll get to that in a little bit here. But tell us a little bit about Pluto and what's gone on there.
Well, I mean, throughout history, we've been kind of back and forth about whether or not Pluto was actually a planet, if it should be considered a planet in our solar system, because it's also a white dwarf. They said it was a sun that became a white dwarf. And so there's a lot of different people saying different things. It was very confusing for everybody. People were saying, well, is it a white dwarf or is it actually a planet, right?
Right.
But so this is really exciting because this is a milestone. We've never, ever, ever had up-close images before of Pluto like this. And this trip actually began in 2006. The New Horizons mission actually began by being launched off of the Atlas V rocket on January 19th, 2006. And it actually made it all the way out to Pluto and was successful. It actually captured images of Pluto, and this is a huge thing. I mean, being able to study it and see it up close was really huge. It was a huge milestone for humanity. And what's crazy is that it almost didn't happen. I mean, over the last, 9.5 years, they said that a lot of things happened, that there were repeated threats to cut funding, that there were technical issues. So the fact that all these hurdles were overcome and that we actually did this successful mission is a huge thing.
So I see that it traveled 3.6 billion miles, which is about as many miles as I have on my Toyota. So is that a big deal, or? I'm just kidding, of course.
Well, yes, it is a huge deal because it's the farthest we've gone out into space. I mean, we're getting to places that we haven't been before, and I think that's very, very impressive.
So 3.6 billion miles in 9.5 years. We'll have to figure that out, but that's actually quite speedy.
It is. They said it was the fastest ever.
Okay. So it's the fastest vehicle we've ever put out into space, or well, anywhere actually. So, and the images that are coming back are absolutely amazing.
They truly are.
So I was looking at somebody who was reporting on it, and I didn't know this, but there was actually, I don't know if I want to call it a contest, but there was a place on the web that NASA had put up that you could name features of Pluto. And that, I believe, is over with now, but Tenzing Norgay actually, for the mountains now, they have one that's called Norgay Montes, which is in honor of him. He's one of the first people that reached the summit of Mount Everest. So, and I guess the ice mountains on Pluto are equivalent to our Rockies here in the United States.
I believe so, yes. Yeah, you are right. I remember that. There was a campaign that NASA did to let people name different features on Pluto. So that is pretty cool to be involved with that and to be a part of that.
So you didn't submit a Miss Metaverse crater or anything like that?
I definitely should have. Next time. I guess once we start going really into space, hopefully in our lifetime, we'll be able to name whole planets.
Exactly. Actually, we should have submitted something for the Tech Geezer, because he would have appreciated having something named for him on another planet.
Tech Geezer crater.
Yeah. We'll have to submit that. That would be actually pretty hilarious. So, all right. So it's been a pretty big milestone in the last week. Not a lot of fanfare, though. I mean, there's been some publicity about it, but not really a lot in the news about it. And do you know where the space probe is going to head to next? I mean, was this its final mission, or is there another mission beyond Pluto?
I'm not actually sure what their next plans are.
Okay.
I didn't read anything about that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to maybe figure out, and maybe it's just going to take photographs and things as it goes by other things, beyond Pluto here now. So it'll be interesting to see how long it stays in space and how long we get images back. That'll be just pretty cool. So
yeah, and one of the most interesting things that I read about this mission and what they discovered was that they discovered that, surprisingly, Pluto doesn't have a lot of craters. That they said that the fact that it doesn't have craters like we would have thought that it would have had means that the planet, or whatever you'd like to call it, is a lot younger than originally thought.
I see. So it's still in developmental stages.
Yes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what kind of space, because of space exploration, what kind of gadgets and things have been brought to us because of that? And of course, I have a list ready, but I'm hoping that you and I have similar lists here. So, can you think of anything off the top of your head that space travel has really added to the culture of the United States or the world?
Sure. Well, actually, NASA recently unveiled an interactive website that you can go to, and it shows you how NASA technologies have benefited our everyday lives. And you can find it by going to www.nasa.gov/city. And when you go to the website, it's an interactive website, so it looks like a house. And that's if you go to NASA at Home. So there's two different ones, NASA City and NASA at Home. And it shows you different ways that NASA has created technologies that we find in our homes and everyday life. So NASA at Home, when you go to the website, it looks like a house, and there's music playing and things like that. And you can click on a room in the house. So, for instance, you click on bathroom, and you hear running water sounds and the toilet flushing.
Okay.
And it shows you a list of different technologies that we have thanks to NASA and space exploration. So one is infrared ear thermometers.
Yes.
There's also ingestible toothpaste, cosmetics, memory, metal alloys, environmentally safe sewage treatments, and bacteriostatic water softeners.
There are a lot of things. Of course, we have to debunk the Tang thing. Of course, everybody talks about Tang when you think about space exploration.
Right.
Well, most people don't know this, but it was actually a product that was created by General Foods by a person, William Mitchell is the person's name. And sales of the powdered drink formula were poor until John Glenn used it on his Mercury flight. So he just took it along, and after that, sales of Tang took off like crazy. So that's the story behind Tang. Probably one of the things that I love about, or one of the products that has been brought to us because of space exploration is safety grooving. And for those of you who might not know what we're talking about, those grooves that you see on the road, those things when you run over them and it goes, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm off the side of the road, and you move back. That they say that the roads that have that have a 70% less likelihood of accidents and fatal accidents, because of that safety grooving. And it was brought out because when they were landing the shuttles, the glass, the way it sits on there, the pilots or the astronauts could not see the runway when the wheels would hit the runway. So they put those safety grooves on the side, so if the shuttle started to veer off a little bit to the right or the left, they could make that adjustment. And now it's being used in highways across the country. So Jim's got a question the way it looks.
I was just going to start singing. Grooving. It just popped into my head.
Yeah, that's good.
Teflon came from the space.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's the story behind Teflon?
They put it on parts and stuff to keep the heat off, or I don't know.
Okay.
It came from space, Teflon.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I have to correct that. Unfortunately, there was an article in Business Insider that debunked a lot of funny things that we believe were developed by NASA and space technology, but actually weren't. And one of those myths is,
this is part of the Tang thing, Nick. Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did Teflon come from?
I'm not sure where. It doesn't say, it doesn't really go into debunking it on the website, but it just says what NASA did invent and what NASA didn't invent, and it says that Tang, Velcro, and Teflon are the three myths that are most common.
Well, I know Velcro came from those sticky thorn things that we have all over the place here in North Dakota, cockleburrs. So, yeah. Dialysis machines came from NASA.
Oh.
So how many lives has NASA saved because of dialysis? So just throwing that out there. The computer microchip came from NASA. It's a descendant of the circuits used in the Apollo guidance computer. And, of course, nowadays there's a microchip in, I think there's even one in our toasters now. So invisible braces came from... And it's just what it is basically it's translucent aluminum. And this goes back now for people who are Star Trek fans. Didn't Scotty in one of the Star Trek movies try to figure out a way to make transparent aluminum? Well, they actually have kind of figured it out. So isn't that something? That's another show, by the way, someday. We got to talk about Star Trek, Star Rollers, those type of things, and the technology that has come because of those. Bond would be another one that we got to talk about. So long-distance communications. Almost everything happens because we have satellites now. That's why a call from Tokyo to Vegas will take place. So there's all kinds. CAT scanners is another one. The CAT scanner was originally used to find imperfections in parts of the spacecraft. And now we use it to diagnose people. So anything else you have on your list, Katie?
Sure. Artificial limbs, baby formula.
Okay.
Cell phone cameras, our computer mouses that we use. The cordless tools also come from that.
Yeah.
Freeze-dried fruit. Freeze-dried food. That's a really common one, right?
It is, yes.
Also golf clubs. MRI and CAT scans, which I believe you said before.
Because we know golfing is important when you're in space. So
didn't they golf on the moon?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Jim, I think we're at break time.
Are we now?
Yes, we are.
Well, now.
It's Lisa saying that on my clock, so let's do that. Let's go to our break, and we'll continue our conversation on the things that NASA and space exploration has brought to us. And we'll probably finish up with a few other things about Windows 10, so come on back.
Right now, 72.
Sean Hannity, weekdays at 2, only on Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to apologize to everybody again who was hoping to see us today.
I don't know if that's a blessing or not.
It probably is a blessing they can't see us in here.
Those of us who have a face for radio.
But we will attempt again next week. We had everything ready to go with Meerkat. Yeah. The only thing that we didn't have ready to go is a decent Wi-Fi connection in this office. So we're going to work on that technology glitch, and hopefully we'll be broadcasting over Meerkat next week, which I know, Katie, by the way, you use Periscope, don't you?
Yes, and another thing, too, is you might want to, if you're going to start doing that, you should also check out catch.me. Since I've been doing my Periscopes, I've had so many people start recommending catch.me, which is KATCH.me. And it actually allows you to get more out of your Periscopes, because right now it only saves for 24 hours and it gets deleted. But using Catch, you can save your Periscopes or your Meerkats too.
Yeah, it pops up after a broadcast on there on mine, so I'll do that. I need to investigate a little bit more. I actually used it for the first time last night, and while we were testing things, and it was working fine in the test. Of course, it just doesn't work today. So we'll get that worked out for everybody. And of course, starting 4 weeks from today, the Tech Ranch will be going to 2 hours a week, so we are excited about that as well. And so we hope everybody will join us for our new extended coverage starting in 4 weeks. And we'll get back to our space talk. And any other gadgets that you want to throw at us before we get back into Windows 10, Katie?
Definitely.
Okay.
There's a lot going on.
Okay, so bring them on.
All right, so Bill Nye, the science guy. Bill Nye. You guys remember Bill Nye?
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely. He's great.
Yeah, Bill Nye is rocking now. I mean, I'm shocked at how Bill Nye has managed to stay so relevant throughout the years. I mean, his show was from 1993 to 1998, I believe.
Okay.
And he's gone on to become the CEO of the Planetary Society, which is an organization that's involved with space research, and it was founded by Carl Sagan. And also, Bill has been a part of 2 very large Kickstarter campaigns to create new space technology that's definitely going to affect our lives in the future. One was back in 2013, and that was a project that he collaborated with an asteroid mining company called Planetary Resources.
Okay.
And in 2013, they raised over $1.5 million for the first ever crowd-funded and crowd-controlled space telescope.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are they actually building the telescope right now?
Yeah, so since the Kickstarter ended, they had a couple of delays. What happened was they had kind of a rocky beginning. One of the first test satellites exploded after liftoff because of a rocket that was carrying the satellite had exploded, but no one was hurt, and it was not a huge problem, but, you know, the test satellite was lost, and that caused some delays. However, since then, they have actually, just last week, I believe, they successfully launched the ARKYD. It's originally called the ARKYD, so it's ARKYD, and now it's called the ARKYD 3, which successfully launched from the International Space Station on July 16th.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so that's just one. And another one that's more recent was last month. Another Kickstarter raised $1.2 million, and that's for a project called LightSail. LightSail is an idea that was originally thought of by Carl Sagan himself, and that was to create a solar-powered spacecraft that can sail through space off solar energy.
Okay.
And so that project was successful. They raised the money for it, and they're going to be moving forward with creating this solar-powered spacecraft, which is totally, totally exciting.
So I have looked at, in the past, I guess, look at propulsion systems for spacecraft, and sails are often discussed because basically you raise a sail much like a sailboat, and the fabric or whatever that you're raising actually has solar panels, solar cells woven into it, and it collects energy, and that's how it sails through space. So, yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it says that the way it works is these giant sails reflect photons, and that transfers momentum, and that helps power it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, and if you like Bill Nye the Science Guy, a friend of mine, he's creating a documentary about Bill Nye the Science Guy, too, and you can check that out on Kickstarter as well. It's going to be the first ever documentary about his life and also the projects he's working on, because his mission is to change the world. He wants to better the world. He wants to create a new future for us all. And that's what the documentary is going to be about. It's going to be a behind-the-scenes look at all these projects that he's working on and how these technologies for space will also help us in the future.
Very, very cool. So, all right. Well, the last part of the show here, I wanted to dedicate a little bit to Windows 10 since that's coming up on us, Katie. So, have you been following Windows 10 at all?
Not recently, actually. I mean, we did do that show a couple weeks back on Windows 10.
Right. Well, we have Mr. Nick Ressler sitting next to me again here, of course. So, Nick, you have any final thoughts on what people need to be ready for Windows 10?
Well, again, there's confusion about it because most people, they don't understand the different programs that they have in Windows 10. There's actually 7 editions.
Okay, so it's like Windows 7 in a way where they had 7 different editions as well. So when you update, let's say you have Windows 7 Home Basic, are you going to get a similar package with Windows 10?
Windows 10 Home.
Okay.
And if you have the higher version, the Pro version, then you'll get Windows 10 Pro. And I looked at it, and the big difference is networking, like for businesses and that.
Right.
And then you've got Enterprise, which is for businesses. And then you've got Windows Education, and then Windows Mobile for your phones and that, and Mobile Enterprise, and then T-Core Industries, like ATMs and that.
Okay.
To run ATM machines.
Wow. Okay. So on a computer, if you have a desktop or a laptop, how many versions are there? Is it just the 3?
Actually, you could put the 3. You could go with Home, Pro, or Enterprise.
Okay.
But for the home user, Home is going to be plenty.
So, and you're thinking that the Pro will be for more sophisticated users or for businesses because of the networking part of it.
Yeah. And if you have a server at home, you'd probably want to run the Pro.
Okay. And so it's interesting that they have an ATM version. Yeah. I've noticed actually.
Well, you know why?
Well, because XP is so
still running on ATM.
It is, and that's what's crazy about that. Yeah. Katie, when you roll around in New York and you go to an ATM, most of those are still running Windows XP. Does that bother you a little bit? I think we lost Katie.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
She's just worried about all that money.
Yeah, she's just thinking, are you kidding me? They're running Windows XP?
Yeah. I have to say, I'm like, no, it's I don't know. I mean, I don't really keep up too much with Windows, unfortunately. Okay. I mean, I have to say, I've just started working with the Microsoft Surface 3 tablets this last week, and getting into it. I mean, they were still working on the Windows 8, and I'm just like, I'm excited for Windows 10, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, you are an Apple person, of course, so so we understand that, and that's why it's nice to have the variety we have on the show here, because we all use different platforms. So so I think the Windows 10 thing for ATMs, I guess I didn't even realize that, Nick, are they going to offer a free upgrade for the ATM machines then too? Or
I suppose.
We're laughing about it here, but that's actually kind of scary that they haven't updated that too much yet. So, so anything else, Nick?
One thing I found is when your computer has that update glitch.
Yeah.
One of the problems is the registry.
Okay.
And believe it or not, CCleaner actually works. It'll clean up the registry. If that doesn't work, odds are you have a virus.
And why don't you explain what CCleaner is real quick?
CCleaner is a program you download.
It's CCleaner, CCleaner.com. I think you can go to it,
and find it, and it's free. They have a pro version, which costs, and a free version. And basically, it goes in and cleans out. The C stands for crap, the crap that's on your computer.
Right.
And cleans up your registry. And a lot of times that works.
Yeah.
It's a sweet little program.
Yeah, it is. And your computer will run a little bit better after you're done with it too. So CCleaner is a great little thing that we utilize. There's some other registry cleaners out there too, and you need to be careful when you go get this. Slim Cleaner is another one, and that one will actually, you can destroy your computer with that.
It can really hurt you.
Yep. So you have to be careful.
Cleaner will never hurt you. You can trust it.
Yep. But you got to make sure you get the right version, because there's a lot of them out there that are scams.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be putting a virus on your computer.
Very careful. Anytime you Google something, pay attention to where you're going and what you're doing.
All right, everybody. I guess that wraps up this week's show. Katie, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Mr. Nick Ressler, thanks again.
Thank
you. And, of course, you can catch up with Nick over at Awesome 2 Products in Mandan if you need more advice or whatever. Mr. Jim Walsh.
Always a financial pleasure.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
You really, we got to do a show sometime on the repertoire of impersonations that you do.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of fun to do sometime. So, all right, everybody, we'll see you again next week.